than they've been in the past.
It's fascinating. Kristen Walker and Michael Schmidt, thank you so much. Thank you for fielding questions from our colleague John Hellman here. He did all of his homework and he had the best questions of the day, and that's how it works around here. Robert Costa sticking around. Let's bring in the rest of our friends. Joining John at the table, politics editor at TheRoot.com, Jason Johnson, who's also queried Chris Christie, among others, at this table, an MSNBC analyst, former chief of staff to House Speaker Paul Ryan, and a first-time guest at Deadline White House. Thank you so much for being here, Dave Hoppy. And Farai Shadaya, a fellow at Harvard Shorenstein Center on the Press, Politics, and Public Policy. So what do you make, first, of the fact that Jared Kushner took center stage today, something that, one, we all know he's loath to do, and two, to use the opportunity not just to say, I'm innocent of any questions or scrutiny under which I've been placed, but that the president's victory was justifiable, and to question it is to ridicule his voters. Wow.
Well, there's two things. One is playing to the base, and there still is, you know, as we keep discussing, a strong Trump base that does not ideologically follow the decline in the approval ratings around the rest of the country. So that talk about the election was clearly speaking to the base. But I think one thing about Kushner going immediately to finances is fascinating, because when you look at the idea of the president pardoning possibly himself and family members, you know, Jared by marriage, that works on a federal level. It doesn't work on the state level. Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General of New York, has really been also looking into financial transactions, possible Russian money laundering. If there were a state case under RICO, for example, that would not be pardonable. So I think that Kushner and the president are very concerned not just about Mueller, but also about other investigations in other legal forums.
I need to bring you into the conversation about the GOP and their really now hot war with the Republican president. You've got folks, your old colleagues, complaining openly about how not just unhelpful, but unconstructive he's been by calling the House Obamacare repeal bill mean, by calling the Senate bill something that lacked heart and needed more heart, more money put into it. What is the current state of the relationship, other than what we've seen in Robert Costa's great reporting and others? But what do you know from your old friends and colleagues about what they think about this president?
The president has shown an ability to basically go out and say anything he wanted to say at any time. And he has an ability,
an appetite for that, right?
Proclivity.
I mean,
one might go that far, but I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Was it harmful, though?
Yes, it's mostly harmful because there's no discipline. And if you want to put together an effort to pass legislation, to move forward on a policy basis, you've got to have discipline and consistency. The best.
And what happens if you don't? Obviously, he doesn't have that. So what happens to the Republican agenda?
It makes it much harder to get it passed. And
is it possible to get it passed?
It is, but it's harder. Why should it be harder when you have a president? If you look at Ronald Reagan as a comparison, they're very different people. But Ronald Reagan was the most disciplined man as president of the United States. Mike Deaver was responsible for some of that, but Ronald Reagan was very responsible for some of that. He knew what he wanted to push, how he wanted to push it, what he wanted to say. Every day they had something they wanted to get out and make it the only thing that the news reported that night. And they were excellent.
We're a long way from that kind of message. But Jason, I want to ask you, what do the Democrats do when they see Donald Trump? I mean, I've seen the ones that end up on TV. They end up defending Sessions. But, I mean, what do they do as a strategy when they, as a party, you know, does the enemy of their enemy become their friends?
Well, I have always thought this: when the Republicans are in trouble, the Democrats should just step back and let the circular firing squad, you know, do what it needs to do. It's difficult to watch, but I think there are so many different issues here. So on the one hand, we have health care. This is a problem. I understand why Democrats basically have this attitude of, fine, let them do this, it'll blow up in their faces. I think Russia is a separate issue. I think that paying attention to what Jared Kushner said today is another example of why Democrats can't leave that issue alone, because not only does the president not give consistent answers, but personally, what I heard from Jared Kushner was like a 14-year-old saying, hey, I didn't know there was going to be drinking at that party. I didn't know. Because, look, if Don Jr. invited you, and then you're going to say, I have no idea why he invited me to that meeting.
It is on the email. I mean, I'm as busy.
Which he said he didn't read.
It is, but how many of us have gotten an email that runs page after page?
Are you defending the decision to attend a meeting where...
No, I'm saying it's entirely likely he didn't read to the end of that.
But was it more honorable to want to go to get dirt from Russia on Hillary, or was it more honorable to walk out when you found out it was really about adoption? I mean, what are you defending?
Basically, what I think he looked at is, this is a waste of my time.
Because there wasn't good enough dirt about Hillary. I mean,
no,
even that...
once again, I can't tell you whether he read to the end of that email. What I can tell you is that I do, and I suspect everybody here and everybody at home is listening, looks a long, long, long email. You never read to the bottom.
Yeah, but you know, I think that if one is involved with a foreign power that's been hostile to the interest of the United States, one might want to read thoroughly. Like, I like to think that my public officials, Republican, Democrat, or Independent,
well, especially
actually
when Russia's
pay
in the
attention.
subject. We have to take a quick break. This is so great.
Subject
it's in the
line
subject. I mean, I'm a scatterbrain to beat all scatterbrains, but I get through the subject line. When we come back.